people starting to log on. All right, we can go ahead and get started. We got folks joining us, saying hi. For folks that don't know, this is Bob Pickering with Flagler County Emergency Services. This is Ben Nelson with the National Weather Service Center out of Jacksonville. And we are going to take some of your questions only, for any questions related to weather and storm.
Okay, so I'm just going to introduce again, because you folks see me out there all the time, and welcome to the weather desk here at the Emergency Operations Center. And this is one of the places in which we track these storms from. And what we do is we watch radar and we stay in communication with the Weather Service and everything. And we're very fortunate that we have a representative from the National Weather Service that is here at the Emergency Operations Center helping us with this storm and giving us meteorological information and updates on what's going on with Hurricane Dorian. So I'm going to introduce Ben Nelson, who's going to go through several things, what's expected with Dorian and what to expect in the short term and a little bit further down the road with Dorian. Ben is with the National Weather Service Forecast Office out of Jacksonville, Florida. So Ben, it's all you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. It's an honor to be here in Flagler County. And overall, we've had some good news today. With the track forecast from the National Hurricane Center shifting a little bit further offshore. But unfortunately, the size of the storm has grown. Tropical storm force winds are now extending out to 160 miles from the center, and hurricane force winds are out to now 60 miles. So this is going to be a close brush, especially with the coast here in Flagler County. You can see behind us that we're starting to get some of these outer rain bands that are pushing onshore, and those are going to have some gusty winds. We've had some 35 to 40 mile per hour type gusts so far. And then if you look on this other radar screen, you can see the well-defined eye of what is now a Category 2 hurricane, located about 100 miles to the east of Fort Pierce, and this is also about 200 miles to the southeast of us here in Flagler County. So we expect these rain bands to increase in frequency, especially overnight tonight, with tropical storm force winds on a sustained basis in excess of 40 miles per hour, beginning in that 3 to 5 a.m. time frame along the coast in Flagler County and then spreading inland. Looks like the height of the storm tomorrow will be during the morning hours from about sunrise through noon. And then once we get to the afternoon hours, this eye will again be paralleling the coast. And once it reaches past our latitude here in Flagler County, we'll start to get an offshore wind like what they're seeing in South Florida today. And that offshore wind will lessen the surge impacts tomorrow afternoon. But during the height of the storm, we are expecting surge values of about 3 to 5 feet along the immediate beaches and 2 to 4 feet above ground level in the intercoastal waterway, which is a little bit less than what most people experienced during Hurricane Matthew here.
All right, so we started to get some questions. People want to know about the wind in Palm Coast and the storm surge.
So for the wind, again, we're expecting sustained tropical storm force winds to begin sometime during the pre-dawn hours, let's say in that 3 to 5 a.m. time frame, especially the beaches, maybe a couple hours later inland. And those will last really throughout the day tomorrow, perhaps till almost sunset at the beaches. And the second question was about storm surge. Yeah, we're looking at about 3 to 5 feet above ground level where you are standing on the beaches. Inland along the intercoastal waterway, about 2 to 4 feet. The high tide is going to be right around sunrise at the intercoastal waterway tomorrow. That'll probably be when that 2 to 4 feet peaks for those folks. And then the high tide looks like around noon tomorrow. That'll be really close because the storm may be just past our latitude by then. So the overnight high tide just past midnight and the noon high tide tomorrow, Wednesday, is when that 3 to 5 foot above ground level water levels will be experienced.
Yeah, I just want to point out too that we've already starting to get wind reports, and as Ben was talking about, one of our storm spotters had a 37-mile-per-hour measured wind gust in Flagler Beach, and we just recently had a report of a power line down on Cimarron due to the winds associated with Dorian, and we got a little bit of nor'easter going on right now ahead of Dorian. Ben can speak more to that, but I just want to let folks know that we are starting to realize some of these conditions right now. Our helicopter Fireflight just did a trip up the beach to assess things while they could still fly, and we're already looking at some beach erosion, and the storm isn't even here yet, and so we're starting to see those problems right now.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be, as Bob said, that's going to be the biggest impact. This wave action and storm surge. We're looking at 10 to 15 foot breakers right on the beaches. That's going to cause significant beach erosion, probably some damage to the coastal infrastructure here along A1A and portions that have flooded in prior storms like Matthew and Irma. So those are going to be the two things: the storm surge and the wave action. We will have heavy rainfall on and off this afternoon and evening, and then as the core of the storm parallels our coast later tonight, the rain will pick up in intensity, and that'll be in concert with the tropical storm force winds becoming sustained above 40 miles per hour, especially on the beaches. So that's kind of the timeline, but again, the main hazards here will be water in the form of high waves and storm surge.
So when can we expect the worst conditions?
Looks like the worst conditions in terms of heavy rainfall and strong winds will probably be during the morning hours tomorrow from about sunrise through around noon. Again, the highest water levels will kind of depend on where you are. The Intercoastal Waterway looks kind of like a lock, where the morning high tide right around sunrise will be the highest surge values for them. We could have a couple of high surges at the beaches, both during the overnight tide tonight just after midnight, and then around noon tomorrow on Wednesday.
And is there a possibility it could still wobble a little to the west?
There is that possibility, and really this is just a matter of miles. Every mile further to the west that the eye of Dorian travels will increase the impacts, especially in the terms of wind along the coast. So we're expecting sustained tropical storm force winds. If we get the eye of Dorian to come a little bit closer towards the coast, we could have maybe a couple of hurricane force gusts right along the immediate beaches. And that would probably be in concert with, let's say, a heavy rain band that wraps around the west side of Dorian's eye as it's bypassing the beaches during the morning hours tomorrow.
And a lot of people want to know and want to compare it to Matthew. So can you help us in relation to that, since we went through that?
Right. Now that the wind field on Dorian is expanding, again, it's out, the tropical storm force winds are out beyond 150 miles, and the hurricane force wind field has expanded to almost 50 miles. This is probably going to be fairly comparable to Matthew, although this may be a little bit further east in terms of where the eye tracks. So every mile further to the east that Dorian ends up tracking will lessen the impacts. So this may be similar, maybe just a little bit below some of the impacts that we had with Matthew back in October of 2016.
And BP, you may be able to answer the storm surge comparison. I know we pulled up that information yesterday.
Yes.
With the storms between Irma and Matthew, and what we're expecting with Dorian.
Well, the other thing to point out is that every single one of these storms is different. So you really can't measure one against the other. And the intercoastal sometimes does some strange things. It surges around and moves around because of the wind, and that can cause it to flood in some places where it does not. That's why we have all these evacuation orders up, and there's a degree of uncertainty there exactly how high that water is going to get, because the storm surge levels that Ben has given us is just what, the water level coming up. But we don't know how the wind's going to play on that. And our intercoastal waterway, because the north end of it is wider, and all that, if the wind blows all that water into a more narrow passage, it could come up a little higher than forecast. We've had it happen in the past. So again, I don't want folks to get stuck on comparing one storm versus another, because every single one of these is different and unique on its own and what it's going to produce, and so that's important to note right there. But as storm surges, again, we're going to kind of see how it plays out. We have to respect the warnings that are out there. There's a storm surge warning for the barrier island and for the areas around the canals. There's a reason for that, and these storm surge forecasts and stuff, there's a reason for that too. These might be tweaked and such as the tropical cyclone approaches changes the region. And a lot of that's got to do with the way the winds expand and how much and where it goes. And also, how does it correspond with the tides? That's another big thing too. And Ben can probably speak more to that. But again, you don't want to get stuck comparing, oh, it's not going to be as bad as Matthew, I'm not going to do anything. But things can change, and things can change very unexpectedly. That's why I urge everyone to please be prepared and take this one 100% serious until it's completely out of our hair.
So when it's closest to our community, what category do we expect it to be in, and what are the highest winds that we could expect?
Well, we expect Dorian to maintain a Category 2 intensity as it parallels our coast through tomorrow. Dorian is going to be moving back over the Gulf Stream here in the next couple of hours. It's only 1 mile per hour under Category 3 intensity. So it's possible that this could be a major hurricane off our coast tomorrow, just depending on how well Dorian gets reorganized over that very deep, warm water in the Gulf of Mexico, but in the Gulf Stream waters, rather. And but as it bypasses us, we are expecting about 10 to 12 hours of sustained tropical storm force winds.
Which is
being 39 to 73 miles per hour. And that would mainly be, let's say, in the pre-dawn hours beginning, let's say 3 to 5 a.m., depending on how close you are to the beach. And then probably ending in the mid to late afternoon hours tomorrow, let's say 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., again, depending on how close to the beach you are.
All right, and should we be concerned with tornadoes or microbursts?
It's possible that we could have an isolated water spout or tornado in any one of these heavy rain bands that are moving through. We have not seen that just yet, but these are the type of bands that can produce isolated tornadoes, and those are the type of tornadoes that probably aren't going to give you a lot of leeway. They're going to spin up very quickly and then dissipate very quickly as well. So we hope that folks have taken all sorts of precautions for wind, because again, tornado is a type of hazard that accompanies these tropical storms and hurricanes as they impact our region.
And can we expect to lose power?
I think that's probably going to be a definite, especially if you're closer to the beach. Just all the many hours of sustained tropical storm force winds will do that. And these heavy rain bands as well.
Yeah, we already have a line down now, and I was going to step in. His forecast office, the weather forecast office in Jacksonville, has just now issued a significant weather advisory for the strong rain band that you can see coming through right now. So that could produce winds up to 45 miles per hour. We've actually had at least one reported power line down in Palm Coast. So we could expect more of that, probably onesie-twosies power issues first. But again, it's really going to depend on what kind of winds we get in Flagler County. And still, the structure of the tropical cyclone and all that's going to play a role into that.
All right, so Thursday morning we're looking at some relief later on in the day. Is that what people can?
It will be the weather will be clearing out Wednesday night and Thursday. It will be very hot on Thursday. We're going to have an offshore wind that's not going to allow the sea breeze to move in. So we're looking at highs in the mid to upper 90s on Thursday. So that's going to be a lot higher than we've been here recently. So keep that in mind. Anybody who loses power or who is planning on outdoor activities to begin the recovery process, make sure you're hydrated on Thursday. Get plenty of water here ahead of time, and plan on a very hot day on Thursday. And we're going to have a stretch of drier weather heading into the weekend. Okay,
great. Well, thank you so much, and we will continue these throughout the evening as Hurricane Dorian passes by. Thank you.
All right, thank you for watching, and again, we appreciate everyone. Everyone's been really good about turning to us for information. Again, I just want to close, and Ben, thank you so much, because Ben usually doesn't work here, so we've dragged him away from like 60 miles from where he normally works to here. So anyway, so Ben, we really appreciate.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate being here.
Ben has really helped us out a lot with decision making here. And again, when we make these decisions to evacuate and stuff, we're not just doing it on our own. We're taking information from the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, and all of that stuff to keep you safe out there. A few hurricanes ago, we had to rescue people from the storm surge. So don't be those people. We want everyone to make sure that they are in a safe location for this storm, because again, even though we have a pretty good handle on what's happening, there's always those uncertain things that can come out of nowhere, and we need to be prepared for that. And that's why we encourage everyone to please take this seriously and stay tuned to us. But also, please also only use good sources of information, because there's lots of folks out there that are kind of forecast and they like a particular model and that this model is going to be doing this. So please only use official information. So thank you for joining us here at the Emergency Operations Center.
Thanks, Bob and Ben.